You're listening to Secrets of Tomorrow's Leaders, brought to you in partnership with JCI Santa Clarita and RK Studios. My name is Koren Young, and I'm joined today by our chapter president, Daniela Suppes.
Hello, Koren.
Hello, how are you?
Good, you?
Great. We have a guest, also one of our newer members. This is Bryan Welch, who is a personal trainer and real estate agent and the owner of Built by Bryan. Welcome.
That's me. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Pleasure. So we've known you for a couple months now. We've seen you a lot. I feel like it's been a busy couple months.
Yeah, it's been very active.
It has been, yeah. I joined, 4 months ago now, and I feel like you guys are always doing something, and there's always some buzz with JCI, so I appreciate there's always things moving. It's good.
There is always something going on.
Yeah,
I feel
definitely
like,
have a filled calendar, that's for sure.
especially during a pandemic year. Mm-hmm. We started out taking a break from things and saying, okay, maybe we gotta lay off this. But we pivoted into online events, which turned back into in-person stuff, and I feel like we've got more now than ever, especially right now, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You don't know this yet, Bryan, but towards the end of the year, things get really crazy. So we've got our regular Chat and Chill, which is our monthly general membership meetings. We have our Coffee in the Parks, which started out as something totally different. We started out just meeting up at a Starbucks once a month, no agenda, no nothing to talk about, just like a totally social thing. Mm-hmm. And due to the pandemic, we couldn't meet at the Starbucks anymore. We started meeting up via Zoom every week.
Nice, yep.
Was it every? No, it was once a month.
Yeah, it was once a month that we tried having breakfast together, kind of to give it that coffee feel.
Yeah, through Zoom though.
Yeah.
I had to wake up early on a Saturday morning, wake up at 9 a.m.
just to have wake up at the same
orange
time.
juice or whatever.
Hey, so as soon as the pandemic started, I started training some of my clients from New York City via Zoom. So I was right off the rip, I was okay.
You were doing that, okay.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, this Zoom thing, this is going to be a part of what we're doing now. So let's find a way to make this,
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you could have some fancy New York City clientele, and you could be anywhere in the country.
Exactly. And my first client I had, actually, she's 80 years old, and I still train her to this day. She was my first client, actually, in New York City. She's 80 years old. Her name's Sally. Shout out, Sally.
Right.
She's a professor at NYU. And we just started training literally with a foam roller, a band, and then just her body. And so we were like, okay, let's find a way to continue to make some progress throughout all this. And it was good. So it's kind of being able to do that from the beginning was definitely nice.
How long have you been a trainer?
So to this point now, just about 3 years. I think 3 years. Let's see. Yeah.
So
it's
you're from here. You're from Santa Clarita, and you started training in Santa Clarita, right?
Yes. So I started training Santa Clarita. I started working in group fitness for a place called the Camp Transformation Center.
I drive by it periodically.
Yeah, it's good. And you'll hear some really fun music and probably a coach yelling a little bit too loud for, the circumstances.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I started, and I really enjoyed it, and it was just fun, which is why I got into it initially.
Yeah, I used to not really understand the group fitness thing. I had a girlfriend years ago who was saying, I got to get back in shape. I got to get back into one of these boot camp things. And I'm like, I don't understand the boot camp thing. You could just go to the gym or just do stuff at home. But I guess she wants someone to be shouting at her, wanted to be accountable to a whole group, right? One person messes up, they all do push-ups or they all run more.
Yeah.
So is that kind of the thing?
A little bit, but it's also because once you have your core team, it's you're all working in it together, and it's you're pushing one another, and so you feel that accomplishment. It's yeah, you got the day done. Yes, we got it.
Most definitely. There was definitely the groups each time, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. They had a specific class. It was always the same people, so they were all oh hey, so and so So they would meet every morning and be so stoked to see each other, and then they'd work out. So there's a lot of positivity there too, and that camaraderie. So, that, and then also I think having a program too, people knew if they just show up, oh, don't worry, for this hour I'll take care of you. I'll make sure you get a good workout. And so I think people like that aspect too.
Yeah. Well, is most of what you do individual, personal training now?
So I focus on one-on-one training now. So I really focus on the individual. Because I come to realize everyone has such a different situation. Everyone's got different goals. Everyone's got different injuries. They've got different stories. So you really have to treat them with a hands-on touch. And so as I grew and learned more about training, I was okay, you have to serve each person in a specific way. And so you really have to dive in and dig to find out how to train that person. So that's where I'm at today, working one-on-one.
Yeah. Okay. So you went from your group fitness classes over at the camp, and you mentioned that you got a job working in New York City as a trainer.
I did, yeah. So I did. So I was working at the camp, and my family were like, okay, we have a vacation in New York City. Of course, I've never been to the East Coast. I've never been to New York. And I'm like, okay, I'll go. And while I was out on this trip, a really good buddy of mine, a neighbor who I grew up with, was living in New York City working for Equinox, and he reached out to me and was like, hey, we should get dinner. I was like, okay, cool. And during dinner, he brought up the idea. He's like, hey, you should apply to Equinox. Just see what happens, this and that. And for me, I'm like really, I'm big on like personal development. How can I get better? Like, how can I elevate myself? And so during that trip, I, had my first interview with Equinox, and I was like, okay, like this might be a thing. And then I came home, and while I was home, they scheduled my second interview, and I was like, okay. And then I literally flew out to New York. This is all within like 10 days.
You had to fly back out there for a second interview?
Yeah, so
Wow.
Exactly. That's how serious I was, because I flew back and I told my parents, I was like, you guys, like, there's a really high probability I'm going to New York City, and this is the way it's going to be. And of course, my mom, being like the Colombian mom she is, she's like, here's the pros and cons list. Like, this is, this is why I think it's good. The finances, this and that. I'm like, Mom, I get it. There's so much on your mind. I was like, but I feel this is the best thing for my path. Like, what I got to do to get better. So I'm going to go, And then I had that second interview, and it went really well. And then I was like, hey, camp, 10 more days and I'm moving to New York. So
Man, that happens fast.
That was fast.
it was all within about 3 weeks. But I knew it was right for me. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm trust my intuition. I got to go. So
Yeah, now, just for context, this was, you said, the end of the second half of 2019.
yeah, exactly. So 2019, I was probably interviewing like June, July, and then like very beginning of August, I was living in East Village in Manhattan.
So you were prepared to be there for 5 years, 10, like whatever.
Yeah,
Like
for
you
sure.
were in it for the
You
long
had
haul.
moved
I
to New York.
I was like building the clientele, everything. Like I was all in. And even my family was like, hey, where you been at? My little brothers were like, we thought you were on Venus. Like we hadn't heard from you or anything. So I was so like, I got a little caught up in the East Coast mentality where it's like, go, go, go.
Yeah, it's kind of easy, especially being in New York. You kind of like lose yourself into the city. So it's, I get it.
And that's, I think, the beauty of it too, is like you lose yourself a bit and you're like, okay, you just try to swim,
So what brought you back out to the beautiful suburbs of, LA here in Santa Clarita?
Yeah, it was COVID, right? So like when I was training all those clients, I was building my clientele, and then COVID happened and this pandemic happened, and no one really knew how bad it was. But for me, like I would lose a couple of clients, like, oh, I'm working from home now. And so like my 20 clients went to 10, went to 5, and eventually it was like me and like 2 other clients, and I was like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. So I ended up going home for a couple weeks, and of course a couple weeks turns into, okay, there's a pandemic. And for me, that was the end of New York City. So,
Yeah, kind of a bittersweet moment, because I loved New York, and it sounds like you did too, if you were willing to get up and move.
yeah, I was loving it. It was, the energy there was so great. I mean, I think it's finally back to that place now where it's like moving again. And I did love it, and I was planning to stay. It was like I said, I was all in. But of course, coming home had a lot of benefits too. I was able to start, Built by Bryan, and still be able to train people. And of course,
You
that's
didn't
what I
even
love
go
doing.
back to like working for another gym. You just started your own.
I started
Your
my
own
own.
company.
Yeah. So, I mean, fortunately, Equinox like taught me so much about like how to, get new clients, how to like serve people, and how to be a really great trainer. Like my confidence was an all-time high. So I was like, okay, especially during the pandemic when like no one was moving, like gyms were closed, like now more than ever, like people needed to move, like for their own like mental health, for like their bodies, for their goals. So it's like, I just saw such an opportunity like to help people. And so that's why I was like, okay, like I just have to find a way to help people. And then of course, like becoming a business owner, I was like, okay, I can do this on my own. So I didn't really feel like I had to go anywhere else to do it.
So that was about a year and a half ago now, right? That you started your own business. Do you work out of a gym, or like where do you train people?
So I actually trained from home. So I moved in with my parents, moved back with my parents, and I turned the garage into a home gym. So my dad wasn't super stoked on it because I painted the walls. Like I literally turned it into like a real gym.
Sounds
And
awesome.
I was like, awesome. And yeah, I have like barbells, dumbbells, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Everything you need to, obviously, that a normal gym would have, I've since acquired. So
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if you go out to like meet at the client's place or wherever.
I do have several clients that are in a situation like that. I have one client, she invested in like, all the equipment, like real industrial size stuff. I'm like, cool, we'll train there. So, but I like to think I could just go wherever I need to go to help people with their goals.
Yeah, you actually did something kind of cool for us for our JCI chapter in Santa Clarita. We mentioned the coffee in the park, and you teamed up with another one of our trainers, Amy Suppes, on creating like a little fitness in the park before our coffee meetings. And we've done one so far,
Yes.
which kicked my ass to...
You guys did great.
It kicked a lot of us.
You guys did great. Yeah. You guys killed it.
I mean, I felt like, like how hard can it be doing like jumping jacks and stuff like that? Because we were doing that as kids, but as adults, it really isn't as easy. And with no weights, right? Like we weren't out there with like a whole bunch of equipment. Yep. It was just like us on a mat.
Yeah, it's your own body weight.
Just lifting your own body weight. Yeah, it wasn't easy, but we've got another one coming up.
Yeah.
And I think we're planning on doing this just indefinitely, right?
I enjoy it. I love doing it. And Amy's great to work with too. Like she just has like just a zest for fitness. And like that's what I love about the industry too, is like so many people are just excited about it. And so like Amy's one of those people, she's just like always has a smile on her face. She's always like excited about it. And I think that's the sort of energy you need, especially in like a group environment or like just someone who's happy to be there. And so I think that's really
So how did you two get together and like come up with this idea to do a group fitness class together?
Yeah, so it was funny. So initially, I really wanted to get my name out there initially. So I told Brittany, I was like, hey, Brittany, I want to host like a fitness event. I want to like, do a big group thing. And I just want to meet a whole bunch of new people. And so then Brittany was like, hey, funny enough, like Amy had this very similar idea and she wants to like host, a fitness event. And so Brittany connected the two of us. And then Amy and I just got along so quickly, like right off the bat. We're like, okay, we think the same. I was like, we're doing the same thing.
That's cool. So instead of pitting you up against each other to like the competition, you guys are like, yeah, we're both trainers. But
exactly. I was like, I think I have this idea. And then Brittany's like, someone is doing this exact thing. Here, just connect the pieces. And we're like, oh, okay.
Although we could save that for next year and kind of do like a next games kind of thing.
That's what I was saying. I want to do like a full-on like relay race. Like, okay, this person does like the quarter mile. This person does like 50 push-ups. Like, and then have like full-on thing. Like have like prizes. All that has big sponsorships. That's
cool. But is it going to be like The Voice where it's like, hey, Team Amy versus Team Brian?
I would love to turn my chair around. And be like,
the problem with that is where it's like you guys are putting your team together. It's going to be just like junior high, and I'm going to be last to be picked.
Aww.
We'll have to like pull names out of a hat or a raffle or something.
That's the only fair way.
You could do it like the Hunger Games style. It's just like put it on the board. It's like your next announcement.
Boom, yeah, from so and so, yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Zone 5, yeah.
So
it's pretty fun.
I've been a member of our JCI chapter for about 4 years, and I feel like we got a lot of new members this year. You included, Carlos. I feel like the people that we've met recently, and I never noticed this being a theme before, but like in the last few times that we either met at the park or we met at like the pool party or met at the beach, when we take our group pictures and I see them later, there's a whole group of you that are like flexing in the pictures. And I'm like, nobody told me that we were flexing.
Okay, so it's funny because I was never the flexer like in the pictures, but at the pool party, that's where I met Jamal for the first time.
Yeah, he's a flexer.
He's a big time flexer. And so Jamal goes, one time I saw myself in a photo and I wasn't flexing. And he's like, and I regret it so bad. He's like, never again will I be caught not flexing in a photo. And so he's actually the one that was like, we need to flex in this photo. So now every time there's a photo, I'm like, okay.
Well,
the veins are popping like
there you go.
Well, now at least now I know to also flex.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot. Just like, just a little bit with the arms.
Just suck it in a little or something.
A little taller. And you're like, I look really good in that photo.
Yeah. I think when I confronted him on it, he said the same thing to me. He's like, yeah, man, never miss an opportunity to flex or something like that.
Oh my God.
I was like, it's quite the philosophy. I was like, I like it.
It is a good philosophy it's a good metaphor for life.
It is like, hey, this is a moment. I'm going to be caught flexing in this moment.
So let me ask you about like fitness in general, because it's something that I know it's important, but I know that I personally don't do it. Like I've had a gym membership at 24 Hour Fitness since 2004. I've literally had a membership for 17 years. I haven't been there in the last couple of years, probably because of COVID, but I can check my history, and I really went like once a year anyway. So it's not about having the membership. You got to be doing something, whether it's like walking or whatever, but why is it so important that we stay in shape, like regardless of what we do?
Yeah. I think to the key you just said is like doing something is the most important thing. Ultimately, there's so many reasons to do it. Like one, obviously, is your long-term health. Like movement is the very best thing you can do for yourself. And it's a super cliche, but like they say, motion is the lotion. Like, and if you don't use it, you lose it type deal. So like just for your body and like for just your body in general for moving, like if it's just good to move. And if you move with intention, which is like, you know, training and that sort of stuff, like resistance training, like you can build muscle, which is strength, like all those sort of benefits. I think it's just really great for like mental health. Like for me, like I just a person with a lot of energy. So for me, like training is just an outlet for me. So I really enjoy it in that regard. Plus, I think everyone has their own personal journey. Like when I was in like my whole life growing up, I was like a chubby kid. I was like a fat kid, you know.
Really?
I was, and it was
to hear.
And it was like the product of, honestly, my grandpa like loving me too much, because he'd pick me up from school and he'd be like, okay, here's $1. We'd go to the 99-cent store right around the corner, and I would find the best way to spend that $1. So I'd get like 2 Butterfingers and like a Skittles. Yeah, exactly. I'd become friends with the ice cream man. Like he'd hook it up. So like it is a problem, like being like good at talking and then also really liking food. Like I would all the time just be, you know, eating. So with that being said, like all throughout like junior high, all that stuff, like I was the chubby kid, you know. I was also the funny kid, which was good too, but like I was definitely the chubby kid. And so was my best friend, which probably, you know, wasn't good either, because he was the same deal. So I think like for me, I just had a relationship with food and all those different things that wasn't super positive. And so I guess for me, like I found fitness is like a place where I can take control of that conversation in my life. And so then eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing this like with some intent. And I was like, oh, I could build a little muscle. These shirts are fitting a little tighter. Like this is cool. And then as I grew up, I just, you know, I've kind of liked it for different reasons and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I guess as an added bonus, it also looks really good.
Yeah, you look good. You feel good first, right? Like that's the first thing is you start and okay, I feel good. And then the second thing is like, oh, okay, notice I look good. And then like the third thing, you're like, okay, like whatever your specific goal is, you're like, oh, it's right there. Like you're getting close, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's what it's about.
Do you have any tips for people that don't want to go to the gym? Just hypothetically, if somebody maybe didn't enjoy going to the gym, something that they could do to kind of stay in shape or at least stay kind of healthy.
Yeah, I think, well, there's 2 things. One, from like a training perspective, like I know there's one program, it's called like Couch to 5K. Mm-hmm. And it's like, first day you just get off the couch, you walk for, you know, a quarter mile. And then you walk for half mile the next day. And then like as the weeks progress, you just do a little more. Because I think when you start in fitness, especially right off the bat, like the most important thing is just to go real slow and to not overwhelm yourself. Because all the time we want to start, okay, all this stuff like right away. And it's very important to get that conversation started, but you want to like go slow and steady. So that's what I would say with training. So even if it was like, okay, I'm going to work out. I was telling someone this earlier today. I was like, start doing like 15 minutes of a workout like 3 times a week, like super basic core, some body weight stuff. Just start moving a little bit. Enough to where you can like know you feel good after, because that's what's going to do it for you. When you start to feel good, you're like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say from training. And the second thing for being healthy is like finding ways to make nutrition work for you, right? Like, because if you can, like as a trainer, if I can get you to like adjust to the lifestyle changes of like believing in the nutrition and what it can do for you, like that's going to serve you your whole life a lot more than like a little bit of training will do. So it's a lot, but it's kind of just getting the ball rolling, building some momentum for one of those 2, nutrition, training, and just being really patient and keep going forward.
Yeah, you mentioned this app, this Couch to 5K, and I think Daniela told me about this app too.
Oh.
Yeah. As did my brother, because 2 months before our 5K that was just last week, we kind of made a pact that we were going to train for this 5K.
Yeah.
Right? So we, starting with Couch, right? Because that's kind of, I think, where a lot of us were. And the original idea was over the course of the next 60 days, we want to run or walk, I guess is probably good enough, 100 miles, which isn't a lot. It's like 1.5 miles a day to like start walking. And we made the mistake of telling Jamal about this challenge. And so what he did is every single day he ran a 5K.
5 miles.
Wow.
Well, yeah, he did 5 full miles. He's like, all right, guys, just trying to keep you motivated. What's the next thing? Oh, yeah. And then I added the doing 100 push-ups a day.
Then you added the 100 push-ups.
Which he also did. And if we're being honest, I didn't do any of the 5Ks or miles. Like I started going on like walks. I'd walk like, a mile and a half or 2 miles, but I didn't make it to the 100. But I will say I still showed up for the 5K. Like in the last minute, I
Yes,
wasn't
you
going
did.
to, but a last minute call from Brittany saying,
Convinced you.
we need some more people, man.
Yeah.
And I did it. I didn't get a great time, but
Yeah.
it was like,
But you did it.
something around 45 minutes. So that's usually like the cutoff.
I have a couple things to say. First things first. Okay, your Forrest Gump that you wore for Halloween was such a bunny outfit. It was so on point, dude.
Yep.
Like,
It
I
worked
loved
out
it.
pretty well,
I absolutely
yeah.
love that. Second thing, 5Ks for me are a funny place because like my grandpa was a runner, like a marathon runner, so he was always running. And like a 5K, he's like, oh yeah, let's go do it to start off the day, followed by an orange juice. Like that's just the way he was.
Yeah.
And so the one time I would go to run a 5K, I swear I take like 15 steps. I like fall on this huge log and like tear up my leg. Like I think I rolled down
Oh
a
my
hill.
gosh.
I know, and I was like
Right at the
7 years
beginning.
old. So like that's 5Ks for me. So I still gotta get past that one, I think.
Well, you could come to the turkey trot and get over it.
Okay, I'm down. I'm so there. So that's my experience with 5Ks. But like one thing you said, Corinne, you're asking about like how you can kind of get to your goals. First things first, I love the fact that you made a goal like I want to run 100 miles, like whatever that looks like, the time period looks like. And I think the best thing you can do is just set several goals in front of you, right? Like whether it's 100 miles or like I'm going to do 15 miles during this month. Like that's the best thing you can do is like set a goal that like you can commit to that is like realistic and that you can have some fun with. And because that's what's gonna keep you going. And even if you like finish the month and you're like, I did 12 and a half miles, that's so much better than like I stayed on the couch for the whole month again. So I think that's the best way to do it. And you got to just have fun with it.
Yeah, I sometimes set goals to myself. Like I guess bigger goals, not necessarily like smaller, manageable ones.
Yeah.
But I made a goal at the beginning of the year to walk 1 million steps in 2021.
Where are you at right now?
I don't know.
I want to know the exact number.
Well, you know what? Because of our phones and watches, we do know the exact number. So here's the thing: if you
Yeah.
divide like 1 million by like 100,
Don't make me do
what
this.
is it?
I was gonna say,
Danielle, this is on you. You're the best.
no,
at
I
it-
suck at math.
It's like 10,000, right?
I think.
that sounds right.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
So you divide that by 3. It's 3,000 steps a day. I could do that.
Oh yeah, you definitely can.
Yeah, that's not that hard.
That's you probably would just do that anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's why I said. That's why a million sounds really impressive, but it ain't.
Yeah, yeah. So that would maybe not be quite as much of a goal, although any goal is a goal. So, but
It's something.
yeah, but you've probably already achieved that, right? So you already.
I hope so. I'm good. I could just stay on the couch now for the rest of
That's
the year.
it. We need to get you a T-shirt that says I walked 1 million steps." You're like, wow, he walked 1 million
Yeah, I
steps.
know.
It really sounds impressive. That's why I'm so proud of that.
I'm with it. I would wear the shirt too. Yeah.
So a lot of our members are on the younger end, right? But for those of us that are kind of older, what would be the benefits of having some kind of fitness regimen? Because I know that I think I just need some kind of motivation to get myself maybe back to going to my gym that I haven't visited in years or something.
Yeah. You're talking like from like just like a scientific perspective, or
Yeah, because
So-
I think I've heard things that like as you get older, like for
Yeah.
example, you're not even 30 yet, but guess what happens the day you turn 30?
So as soon as you reach 30, you start to slowly lose muscle. Right?
Okay,
Like
so
your
you-
muscle slowly starts to deteriorate, right?
And your metabolism, like you retain fat more. Like this whole thing sucks.
Not necessarily.
Oh, it happened to me.
I mean, I'll just speak on what I know and
Okay.
what I've learned. So once you reach 30, yeah, you slowly start to lose muscle. So you have like two choices. Like you either try to stop that or you like try to build muscle, which you certainly can build muscle. So the only way to build muscle and maintain muscle is through protein, right? That's where nutrition comes into play. So first of all, that's like the conversation I have with my new clients is like, okay, let's find a way to get more protein in your diet, right? And what that number looks like is specific to their goal, right? So whether they're in a calorie deficit or a maintenance or even a surplus, protein's that first number that's got to stay high because protein is the building blocks for your brain, for your muscle, all your tissue, everything. So it's like finding a way to get that protein in your diet is going to be the first thing to battle against, okay, the muscle you're already losing.
like what's a good number for like grams of protein?
So they say the numbers is like per body weight. Let's say like, I don't know, I weigh 175 pounds. So like I should have 175 grams of protein a day. And if you're in a calorie deficit, right? So calorie deficit means your goal is to lose weight. So when you lose weight, your body is like, okay, we're losing everything. So at that point, your muscle, fat, everything. So at that point, they also recommend you'd go a little higher. So like, let's say if I was in a severe calorie deficit, so it's like, okay, so healthy calorie deficit is like anything more than 200 calories. So it's somewhere between like 200 and 500 calories less than your body needs. Okay. So it's going to start losing things. So at that point, that's when you'd want to have that protein number a little higher. So maybe like 190, 200, just to like
offset things.
Yeah, offset.
That sounds
like,
so high.
Raise the probability of you keeping more muscle, like while you're cutting and losing fat.
Yeah, but you said at like 175 grams of protein.
Yeah,
That's a lot of protein. I feel like when I buy these like granola bars that say high in protein, it's like 9 grams or maybe like 19 grams or something. But that's not a lot at all.
It's not. So it's so misleading out there for like, okay, this is a high protein thing, like a high protein pancake or high protein this and that. Like it's like not really. Like 10 grams of protein. I mean, obviously it all counts, but a lot of those things out there are like really high in fats or they're really high in carbs. And I'm like, well, between your 3 macros, your proteins, your fats, and your carbs, like, you got to know what you're eating to like know what to go after. Like, okay, these are the protein foods. And then you start to mix those in, and then that's where you can build some momentum.
Wow. That's the only thing that's worked for me, by the way, in losing weight in the past. Was like MyFitnessPal, just keeping track. And
my favorite app in the whole world. They should sponsor me. I'm serious.
I know.
Do you
we were
promote
just
it?
talking about
Okay,
this.
well,
I promote it like crazy.
I've used it a lot. Like you can see MyFitnessPal. I don't use it as religiously as I used to, but since 2012, my weight's gone like this. Like sometimes I'll gain 30 pounds, sometimes I'll lose 30 pounds. But it's always when I start using the app, and it's not so much that I'm like eating great stuff. But it's just the fact that it's like I don't want to have to put it in the app. It's like the fact that I'm thinking about what I'm putting in my body before I put it in my body makes me eat better.
Yeah, there you go.
And it really helps.
See, that's the way I feel. That's my philosophy. And I try to teach like my clients who I work with. I'm like, let's use MyFitnessPal enough to where like you can have an understanding of what needs to go into your body, and hopefully you can put the app away and then like have a little bit better of understanding.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of clients now that you've been out here just a few months?
Yeah, so right now I'm training about, I would say between like 15 and 20 clients right now.
That's good. You said that's where you were at Equinox, right?
Yeah, just about the same as Equinox, yeah. So I do some couples, I do some families, and then I do a lot of one-on-one training.
Cool.
So it's fun, yeah. And then Daniela and I are going to be working here soon, so stay tuned.
At one point, I guess you can say this is the start of my fitness journey. 2021 edition.
Yeah, let's go.
It might be 2022 edition by the time you.
Well, yes.
I guess you're starting now.
Starting now.
Yeah, starting now.
Starting now.
Yeah, starting right now. Here we go.
Cool. Well, I hope business stays booming and you do really well, and you'll be able to afford shirts that are a little bit looser on your biceps.
This is as loose as they go now.
Yeah, you're just flexing.
Yeah, I'm always flexing, so.
Never miss an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some shirts.
Cool. All right. Well, Bryan, thanks for coming on the podcast. It's great talking to you
you.
about this stuff. And Daniela, thank you as always for being here.
You're welcome.
Secrets of Tomorrow's Leaders is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.